Superman is boring, right? At least that's the conventional wisdom on Superman. That used to be a really edgy take, but now that's just what everyone says. He's an unkillable, indestructible Boy Scout who can never lose, and his one weakness, kryptonite, even when it's lodged into his side, he can lift an entire island that's also made of kryptonite, because I guess he was just trying hard enough. But I think that really misses the point on Superman, because Superman is my favorite superhero, and people who make these points usually use poorly written Superman stories to illustrate why he's quote-unquote boring, right? So today, I want to talk about my favorite Superman comic to illustrate why he is the greatest superhero ever made and why he is the longest-lasting superhero ever made. Now, when people talk about the best Superman stories, you get the usual suspects. Superman Red Sun, All-Star Superman is usually brought up as the best one, maybe Superman Birthright or Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. And I love all those stories, but I'm going to talk about Superman Up in the Sky. Now, why does no one talk about this one? Well, it was a Walmart exclusive when it first came out in 2019, which is apparently something that happens, and it was only on digital for a while, that's how I read it, but now you can get it in all its physical and smellable glory. The story starts with Batman telling Superman to go talk to this girl in the hospital. She's an orphan because you see her orphanage got attacked by aliens, because of course it did. And she says that her foster sister Alice also survived, but she was taken by the aliens up in the sky. Superman now has a choice to make. He could stay on Earth or leave for potentially months to go find this one little girl. So he asks the Green Lanterns, they can't really do anything about it. After talking with Batman, he realizes he is really the only one who could save Alice. So even if it might leave Earth defenseless, he does what he always does, which is doing what no one else can. What follows is a series of 12-page vignettes that are all these little unrelated adventures Superman goes on the way to finding Alice. So he has to fight a alien boxer a la Superman versus Muhammad Ali. He has to cure an incurable alien disease. He travels back in time to World War II. He even has to wait in line at like an intergalactic DMV. But I want to talk about Part 8, which is called Man and Superman. Part 8 begins with Superman flying through space when he gets suddenly struck by purple space lightning that splits him in two. God, I love comic books. It splits him into his Kryptonian, superpowered half, Kal-El, and his oh-so-human, bespectacled half, Clark Kent. Now, this is not the first time Superman has been split in half between his superpowered and human half. Although it is definitely the best time it's happened. They crash land on an icy planet, and the writing immediately makes it clear that they're not just split between powers and no powers, but that Clark has all the emotion and humanity, and Kal-El has all the cold, calculating Kryptonian thought. Now, Kal-El says, I need to return to Earth as Earth's defender, but I can't take you with me because you have no spacesuit, so I'll make you some shelter, get you some food, and I'll let the Green Lantern Corps come pick you up. And Clark, of course, asks Kal, well, what about Alice? Kal explains to Clark that he's the guardian of all of Earth. He can't possibly waste so much time and effort on one girl who he probably won't be able to save anyways. So Clark sets off and starts building a backpack and venturing out of the cave. Kal asks, what are you doing? He says, I'll find a way to get off planet, then I can continue trying to save Alice like I've been doing this whole time. Kal lectures Clark about how this is just pride disguised as compassion, and how this pride makes Superman weak. But Clark responds by saying, you never made me strong. Kal continually returns to Clark, unable to return to Earth, and he can't really figure out why. Clark ultimately explains that they both need each other's strengths to really be Superman. After all, it was this incompassionate, logical thought that got Krypton blown up in the first place, and frankly, if they were all like this asshole, I'm kinda glad they're dead. Ultimately, they agree to fly back into space and just hope that magic space lightning puts them back together. And we never actually see the outcome of the plan. In fact, we don't see the outcome of a lot of the chapters in this book. We also don't see how a lot of the chapters started in the first place. But that's not the point of Superman. Of course, Superman is going to succeed. He's Superman. What makes him an interesting character is the human struggles he goes through along the way towards his success. And this is what Tom King gets about Superman. He's not an alien who happens to live on Earth. He's a human who goes off and does all these crazy alien adventures because he has the powers and responsibility to do so. It is his compassion, his heart, his love, his fear, all of his humanness that makes him the hero that he is and makes him a character that's fun to read. You just gotta put him in fun scenarios. In the intro of the book, Tom King talks about how people say writing Superman is impossible. He's too powerful, too true, too American way, as corny as Kansas in August, and as normal as apple pie. And how is any of that relatable to our current world? People say you're better off writing the other guy, the guy who's dark and broody and darkly, brutally symbolic of all the dark and broody happenings in our dark and broody world. But Superman doesn't work in our world. He doesn't work in a world full of nuance where right and wrong are hard to distinguish. He is always right in a world full of people always doing wrong. And frankly, King addresses that makes him actually easier to write. See, Superman stories are only as good as the crazy, outlandish, and colorful worlds you build around him. If you put him in a real world full of these really nuanced questions, then it's just really boring. I mean, King literally opens the first issue by showing Batman's limitations. Batman goes to Superman because he needs Superman to comfort a child, something Batman isn't really that good at. And then he needs Superman to go off and fly and do this intergalactic adventure full of incurable alien diseases, identity-bending lightning, something Batman isn't really suited for. King is setting up a world that works for Superman right off the bat. Now, I'm not saying Superman can't have fun stories set on Earth. Several of the chapters in here are set on Earth. And I can't stress this enough that one of the chapters in here is set in like an intergalactic DMV waiting room that's just testing Superman's patience while he's picturing all the different ways Lois could be dying while he's away from Earth. So if Superman sitting in a waiting room works and can be an impactful story, then clearly Superman isn't the problem here. The problem is Suits greenlighting dark and morally ambiguous stories that should be meant for Batman. And that's why I'm so excited for this new movie. It looks fun and colorful and fucking hopeful for once. And actually, while I was filming this, they actually dropped a new trailer.
You've always been wrong about me. I get scared, but that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
And it literally makes all my points I've been trying to make for me. All this to say, I still love comics that deal with complex, nuanced, real-world issues. But that's not why I read superhero comics, and it's certainly not why I read Superman comics. They're an escape, a look back to simpler times when the world was black and white, when we knew a lot fewer things about the world which somehow made the whole world easier to understand. And Superman is the ultimate embodiment of that. As Tom King wrote, Superman is exciting, Superman is fun, Superman is joy. And because of that, Superman is relevant. In a time of crisis, and these days it's always a time of crisis, Superman represents a retreat, not a respite. A moment of consideration and inspiration before we plunge once again into the deluge. Hey y'all, thanks for checking out my first YouTube video. If you liked it, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you think I should make more of these video essays, I got a lot of ideas. Star Wars, comic books, sports, movies, all sorts of dumb stuff. So let me know what you'd like me to talk about down below.